What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, the first one in the new digs. How you guys like the new setup? But nonetheless, we are here today to talk about what's going on with the Chicago Bears. We had 1 week of training camp down. What's going on with Tevin Jenkins? Who shined in training camp? We got all that and more that we're going to get into right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
All right, Bears fans, listen, I miss you guys. Shout out to Bobby who held it down for me on the daily episode, dropping that daily content for you guys. But Haize is back. We're still working out some of the kinks here in the new place, so the sound isn't as pristine as I would like it, but we're gonna get there nonetheless. Listen, we got Chicago Bears news to talk about. It's exciting times around Bears Nation with training camp being back in session. Some of the videos we've seen, some of the people who've shined in training camp, but we're going to talk about all that. But first, I want to talk to you guys about the Chicago Bears have been reported now as the 6th most valuable franchise in the NFL, and this is why the Chicago Bears fandom is what it is. This is why Bears Nation is what it is, and this is why we bear down every single day here at Chicago Bears Central. Listen, the Bears rank behind the Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, New England Patriots, San Francisco 49ers, and Los Angeles Rams to be the 6th most valuable franchise in the NFL. Reportedly, they made $364 million during the 2020 season, $525 million last year. And again, because of COVID-19, that's why 2020 was a little bit down. But the Bears, considering that the season that they had last year, considering the Bears haven't been a a contender and haven't won a Super Bowl in my whole lifetime, to be clear, while we put together very competitive teams, very fun teams in the course of since our last Super Bowl win till now, considering that, it just shows you how strong Bears Nation is, and it shows you what this franchise can be. Now, imagine if this was a winning franchise and we get some more of those casual fan bases again. Now, while this doesn't matter to us fans, true fans of this team, we're going to be ride or die regardless of whatever revenue they're generating, but it is good to hear that they are on the positive side of that. Now, considering the Bears don't make a lot of revenue off their stadium as well, if you look at the Arlington Park thing, once that happens, once the revenues go up, once that boosts them, as well as having a bigger stadium, they have one of the smaller stadiums in the NFL, all that's going to continue to bode well for that NFL team in the Chicago Bears. And hopefully that money can be put into the franchise to continue making it that much better. Again, so it's just great. And considering the Bears, Packers, and Bengals are the only teams without an NFL naming rights sponsor as well, if the Bears do decide to do that with the Arlington Heights Stadium, it could boost them up even more. So hopefully continued growth for the Chicago Bears on the field and off the field when you talk about the value of that franchise. But let's go ahead now we've talked about the business odds and ends. Let's talk about the first week of training camp. Bobby's held it down, covering news that's going on with there. The rookies have shined. Kyla Gordon, Jaquan Brisker have definitely stood out amongst everything going on in training camp so far. One of the first videos that we've seen as well was Justin Fields to Bellius Jones. The rookies are shining in training camp right now, and this is a good time for the Chicago Bears, considering everybody talked about us not having the names, everybody talking about the moves, us whatever else. The fact that in training camp thus far, and yes, it's just training camp, they start pads today, considering all that, with those things improving for the Chicago Bears, you're looking at this team getting even better, even quicker, and it can go so much farther for the Chicago Bears. Now, so with that said, and talking about how the rookies have stood up, let's talk about the players that have impressed the most in training camp so far. So I'm going to give you 5 players that have impressed the most so far in training camp. And first up is Kyla Gordon. Everything he was advertised to be. After missing some of the workouts before, Kyla Gordon has come back and been a huge part of training camp, showing everything that he was advertised to be. The intensity, the ball hawking, right? Getting after that. And the same thing with that, Jaquan Brisker as well. Standing out in major ways. Jaquan Brisker, after that contract being worked out, coming into training camp, coming in, showing his fastness, showing his ability to control the ball. Control his body. And this is coming from head coach Matt Eberflus. He says he has a great body control, and you can see that adjusting to the ball in the air to make an interception, adjusting to the alley when the runner changes his angle to slow down, speed up to maintain the inside out angle to run the alley and make the hit. So he's done a lot of those things. You can see it. It's evident on the tape that he has it. That makes you feel good. That makes you feel great. And then Eddie Jackson, as far as on Kyla Gordon, says he's just a freak athlete. Some of the plays he makes is not even his man. He's coming off his man, making plays on the ball, just seeing how very instinctive he is. He's smart. He's willing to learn. He talks less, and he takes everything in. These are positive quotes coming in from huge parts and rookies who are going to be starting day one. Next up, number 3, Justin Fields. Everything coming from Justin Fields. Offensive coordinator Luke Getsy saying this about Justin Fields. That's what's so special about him. Forget the athletic part. That guy, the way he attacks every single day in his approach and leads by example, doesn't ask anybody to do anything that he doesn't expect of himself. That's a guy, that guy's a natural born leader type of guy. So we're lucky to have that guy and leading this thing. Again, these are the comments you want to hear. Yes, we need to see it on the field. On the field, we need to see it absolutely. But we're hearing things that you want to hear and seeing them in the tape that was released. Number 4, Bellius Jones Jr. This is the guy who I've told you guys. Now, we talked about Brian Pingle a little bit, but Bellius Jones, I absolutely think is going to be the wide receiver number 2 on this team before the end of the season. I'm going to go ahead and now put a stamp on it. By week 4, Bellius Jones Jr. will be the number 2 wide receiver on this team. But with that being said, everything that we hear about him, his speed showcasing, his playmaking ability being showcased as well. One of the bright spots in Saturday for that team in an unimpressive offensive stretch for them as well that we talked about. And we're going to this one. This is Bellius Jones Jr. This is him talking about himself. They're moving me from ZFX. They want me to know everything, so it's been really fun getting to work with QBs and stuff like that. They know my abilities. They know the reason they drafted me, and I'm really good with the ball in my hands. Wherever they need me to be, I'm just going to be there and execute. Come on, man. That's everything that you want to hear from this team. Every single thing that you want to hear. The next one up, number 5. This one is from Cole. This one's about Cole Kmet. Now, again, offensive coordinator Luke Getsy says this. He can do a lot of different things. That's the thing I like about football players more than anything is the guys that can do a lot of different things, and that makes them more valuable to the offense and makes them more dangerous to the defense. Cole is one of those guys, and that has flexibility. Again, we're going to hear a lot about Dardon Mooney. I could have mentioned him. Absolutely, he should have probably been my number 5. But I want to talk about Cole Kmet as well because, like I said before, Cole Kmet could be one of those things that helps protect Justin Fields, to be that safety valve for Justin Fields, can be that kind of weapon X, so to say, for the Chicago Bears offense. Again, all of these things so far, all of these players that have stood out. I could have also mentioned, we've heard things from St. Brown as well standing out. It's been a really good time for the offense and for the Bears overall when it comes to training camp so far. And it has me and a lot of Bears fans extremely excited about what we can do and what this is going to turn into for the Chicago Bears. So the fact that the rookies have been stealing the show, the fact that, we've getting people to step up in big ways that we may not have expected, this is all greatness. Now, with that greatness, we even need to talk about some questionable things. What's going on with Tevin Jenkins? He was left off the initial depth chart that was released as well. Not just not being listed as a starter, being left off completely. Now, we did hear that he has missed 3 straight practices as well. He's listed as day-to-day. Now, hopefully he's transformed his body. He's dropped a lot of weight. I don't want to see him dealing with a lot of the same injuries that what we're having. But from David Kaplan, from this one, is from what we're hearing, it's not a serious injury. What I'm hearing is that there's a high level of disconnect between Tevin and the new coaching staff, especially Chris Morgan, the new offensive line coach. That's not something that you want to hear about a player that you drafted in the 2nd round. So what's going on with Tevin Jenkins? It's not all positive in training camp. It's never going to be. But if Tevin Jenkins is not going to make it into that lineup, not be listed on the depth chart, it really does come as a blow and a waste of a draft pick. Now, yes, it wasn't a draft pick by this regime, so I guess that you're kind of playing with house money in a way that way. But there were a lot of people that did have a lot of high hopes for Tevin Jenkins, me being one of them. And to hear things like this, it makes it's extremely questionable. Now, hopefully it works itself out. We know that we've added a lot of veteran linemen in the last couple of days, but I did and had hopes that Tevin Jenkins was going to be able to cement himself in that lineup in some shape, form, and fashion. But what we're hearing, that may not be the case when it's all said and done. And if that's not, how big of a hit is that for the Chicago Bears in the long run? I don't know, but I guess we'll continue to see it. We'll continue to monitoring it. But outside of that, other things from training camp, Justin Fields and Dardon Mooney and their connection, their camaraderie, their chemistry is all next level. And that's going to be something that bodes well for the Chicago Bears, not only now, but in the future as well. The young players getting opportunities and making the most of those opportunities. When you look at Braxton Jones, Zachary Thomas, Doug Kramer, J. Tyree Carter, who Tyree's my middle name, so just Tyree Carter, if that's how you say it, all getting reps with the starters at one point in training camp. We've seen that over the course of the offseason as well. So, all positive things there. the rough summer for Tevin Jenkins. Who knows what's going on there? The offensive line is definitely starting to take shape as well with those veterans that we added in Riley Reif and Michael Schofield. So we're expecting that. It's going to be the best case scenario for them to be on the field when Justin Fields takes that and they start games in the preseason. And, by what we're seeing, Cole Kmet could be ready for a breakout season. So a lot of things still need to be worked on. It's only the first week in training camp. Robert Quinn's not going anywhere, so he's firmly in there as well. All positives for the Chicago Bears. Still, when it comes to Roquan Smith, pay that man. Don't forget it. I'm not going to drop that at all. Pay the man. Get that man paid, but it's good that he's in there in the building as well. They start contact practice today with pads on, so be on the lookout for more updates from that. But this is Chicago Bears Central. Thank you so much for joining the daily episode of Chicago Bears Central. You can follow the show at Shy Bears Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave us a text and our voicemail, which I know I got to get to your guys' voicemails. It's supposed to be on Fridays. I missed last Friday. Bobby had to step in. We'll get to those voicemails. Make sure you get those in. The number to do so, 773-270-2799. This is Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you guys bear down. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.